This is a lesson on factoring the trinomial x squared plus bx plus c. Right? You can write some trinomials of the form x squared plus bx plus c as the product of two binomials. And what we're going to do is we're going to start out looking at the product of this binomial here, x plus 3 times x plus 2. Alright, so when we look at the product of that, what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to FOIL it. So x times x would be x squared, x times 2 would be 2x, then we would have 3 times x would be 3x, and 3 times 2 would be 6. So then we're going to combine like terms, and we end up with x squared plus 5x plus 6. And we can see that that trinomial is in the form x squared plus bx plus c, where b is 5 and c is 6. Okay, but if you look back up at the top, it could also be written as the product of x plus 3 and x plus 2. Okay, so in order to factor x squared plus bx plus c, you must find the two numbers that have a sum that add up to give you the b term, or 5 or b, but also give you a product of c, such as this 2 and 3. When you add 2 and 3 together, it gives you 5. When you multiply 2 by 3, you end up with 6. Alright, so moving on to this first example. What is the factored form of x squared plus 7x plus 2? Alright, we've got a little hint here. List the factors of 12. Identify the pair that has a sum of 7. Alright, and this should say 12, not 15. Okay, so what are the factors of 12? So we're going to look at 1 times 12. And that sum would be 13. 2 times 6, sum would be 8. And 3 times 4, that sum would be 7. Alright, those are all the factors of 12. We want the pair that add up to give us 7. So that's that pair there. So when we write this out in factored form, it would be x plus 3 times x plus 4. Okay. We could check that by foiling or using the box method or using the distributive method. Okay. The factored form of x squared plus 7x plus 12 would be x plus 3 times x plus 4. Alright, in our second example, we have the same type of setup. We've got x squared. This time, instead of it being a plus, it's going to be a minus 8x plus 15. Okay, and that's going to affect what it is that we're looking for. Alright, so I'm going to start out, of course, again we have a hint, list the pairs of negative factors of 15. Alright, so we're looking for factors of 15. Okay, and I'm going to start out by listing some positives. Alright, what's 1 plus 3? Right, we're going to have the sum, or 1 plus 15 will give us 16, 3 plus 5 will give us 8, but none of those give us negative 8, which is why we need to look for the negative factors. Okay, so when we have negative 1 times negative 15 gives us negative 16, and then negative 3 times negative 5 gives us negative 8. Okay, so that's why we're going to use those factors there. So when we write it out in factored form, it'd be x minus 3 times x minus 5. And that would be our answer. Okay, so there's example 2. In the next example, alright, again we have a similar situation, but this time it's plus bx, but then it's minus c. Okay, so we're going to identify the factors of negative 20. Right? So negative 20, let's see, that would be negative 1 times 20. Could have positive 1 times negative 20, negative 2 times 10, 2 times negative 10, 4 times negative 5, And we could have negative 4 times positive 5. Over here, we're looking for the sum. All right, that would give us 19, negative 19, 8, negative 8, negative 1, and positive 1. And we want the ones that give us a sum of 8. So we're going to be using these two here. And we're going to write it as the product of two binomials. So it would be x minus 2 times x plus 10. Right, and if you just check it by FOILing, x times x is x squared. Negative 2x gives us the inside term. The outside term is 10x. When you add that together, you do get 8x. And then the last two terms, negative 2 times 10, does give you negative 20. Okay, we'll take it and we'll look at an application type of problem. It says the area of a rectangle is x squared minus 5x minus 24. What are the possible dimensions of the rectangle? So again, we're going to list out the factors of negative 24. Okay, so we're going to have one positive, one negative factor. And if we look right here, since it's negative 5, we actually know the negative number has to be larger. So I can actually kind of skip and just look at the ones where the negative is larger. All right, so then let's come over here and do the sum. It'll be 23, negative 23, negative 10, negative 5, and negative 2. Okay, so when we're looking at this, the ones that give us a sum of negative 5 are going to be 3 and negative 8. So when we list this out, it'll be x plus 3 and x minus 8. Okay, so the possible dimensions are given by x plus 3 and x minus 8. All right, the last example we're going to work out for this would be to look at, or to find the factored form of x squared plus xy minus 30y squared. Okay, and all we did in this term was add another variable into the mix. So we're still going to be looking for the factors of the c term. Okay, so the c term, we're just looking at negative 30. We're not going to worry about the y squared right now. All right, and we want it to add up to give us 1. Okay, there is a 1, even though it's not written there. It's understood that the coefficient of xy is 1, so we need them to add up to positive 1. So I want the positive to be larger. So 30 times negative 1, 10 times negative 3, 6 times negative 5. We look at the sums. It's 29. 7 and 1. Again, we want the ones that add up to 1. So we're going to use those two factors. So, be x plus 6 and x minus 5. But we have to account for that y squared. So what we do there is we put a y and a y. Okay? And that'll take care of the y squared, and it'll also help take care of the xy term in the middle. Okay. The last thing you need to do on this video, go ahead and summarize what you've learned in this lesson and be ready to discuss with your classmates tomorrow.